Namaste and welcome everyone to this truly special live session. I'm honored and excited to be joined by none other than Yuvraajh Jusmer Singh, a spiritual guide, healer, and the torchbearer of two incredible legacies. This morning we'll be diving deep into the ancient art of palmistry as passed down by the revered Chand Singh and the sacred practice of Egyptian hand reading gifted to the world through the one and only Pam Singh. But that's not all. Yuvraj will also share his insights on pranic healing, phytotherapy, psychic sensitivity, and even the growing presence of demonic activity in the world today. This isn't just a conversation, it's a spiritual journey. So, whether you're seeking clarity, healing, or connection to ancient wisdom, you're in the right place. So, welcome, Yuvraj. How are you?
Dhanyavad, Safai. It definitely is a pleasure speaking to you again.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely believe this is a conversation that's long overdue. I know
Mm-hmm.
you've been asking me for a while now when we're going to do it, when we're going to do it. And I must apologize for taking as long as I did in getting back to you. But I believe now is the right time.
Now it's all cool. It's all cool. So, all right. The first batch of questions will be to you, and then I'll ask about your parents afterwards. So, my first question to you, Yuvie, is regarding pranic healing. How does pranic healing work to balance the body's energy system, and can it be used as a complement to conventional medical treatments?
I definitely believe chronic healing is an amazing practice. I am one of the few people in South Africa that practices Kalaria which is the mother of all martial arts. And I do teach certain people, even though I am not practicing as an instructor at this point in time. One of the major elements of Kalaria involves pranayama. Pranayama is essentially today referred to as chronic healing, and its breathing techniques, its energy transfer, its energy flow. The body is made up of white light force energy. And in Chinese, they call it qi. In Japanese, they call it ki. In Hinduism, we call it prana. Pranic
Oh,
healing is basically the ability to use that energy to heal others. Can it be used as a complement to traditional allopathic medicine? Well, most definitely it can. But I would go further and say it can actually supersede that. It can probably be even more effective in certain cases.
okay. So, regarding phytotherapy, which herbs or plant-based remedies do you believe are most powerful for healing both physical and emotional ailments, and how do you recommend integrating them into daily life?
So, if we look at a lot of the um, things that plague humanity today, a lot of it is our environment and our diet. It's influenced by these things. You've known me for a fair while now, sir. You know that I am not a vegetarian. I'm somebody whose diet is very diverse. The way I approach life is very diverse. And if I were to answer your first question and say which herbs are most effective at this point in time, considering that we've just come off COVID virus strains that have evolved and that sort of thing, I would say an immune booster. What's the most obvious immune booster in Ayurvedic medicine? It is basically tulsi. And so consumption of the tulsi plant, whether you buy the capsules, whether you use it traditionally from the garden. However, it does boost your immunity quite strongly. Echinacea is another option. And then something that plagues people with regards to the blood pressure scenario in the world today. Omega 3s, um, cayenne pepper, these sort of things help lower that. Um, a lot of people have digestive tract issues, that sort of thing. Simple thing like adding green tea or dandelion tea to your consumption in your diet can alleviate that.
Okay, regarding your psychic abilities, in your experience, what are the early signs someone might be developing psychic sensitivity, and how can they safely nurture these abilities?
The first thing, and a lot of psychics in the world will not appreciate me saying, the first thing you've got to acknowledge is that every single human being on this planet is born with the sense and the capability of psychic divination. It is just another sense that you develop. And what are the early signs? I would say a child that is nurtured, developed, and strengthened to believe in his divine guidance or her divine guidance for that matter. If you're not raised in an environment where you question everything and doubt everything because religion tells us this is not possible or science tells us that this should not technically be possible, if you're not ingrained with that sort of, I tend to call it nonsense, you're not ingrained with that, you definitely have the capability of achieving those levels of perception. Um, Early signs, a child will pick up on things. Um, Even if it is just an empathic feeling. You're feeling this, you walk up to you, you're feeling this, I can sense it. Or before something happens, the child just lets out that this is going to happen. Those were the way, that was the way my parents picked up on me. Yeah.
Okay, all right. With reports of rising negative energies and demonic influences worldwide, how can individuals protect their spiritual space and energy field on a daily basis?
There's two things that we do in this world today that open us up to those energies. And I've seen it done by even religious leaders and teachers. Opening themselves up to things of lower energy nature. Um, Consumption of alcohol, visiting lower energy spaces, um, drug sort of addiction, that sort of thing. Anything that just opens you up to a, how shall I put this, a contour that overpowers your natural will is not a good thing. That um, lowers your spiritual energy, it drains you, and it also opens you up to these energies that can affect you. And that is why we have the high rate of such influence in the world.
Okay, all right. Now we get to the spiritual discernment. How can someone distinguish between a true spiritual experience and a deceptive or lower vibrational influence, especially in altered states or meditative practices?
So it's not an easy thing to do for somebody who isn't experienced at that, which is why I believe we need to be exposed to such things at very young ages, so we learn from that experience. Um, I believe that it is very, very important for us to be, how can I put this, productive in the way we do things, but we also have to be in tune with ourselves, in tune with our body, our psyche, our psychological sort of makeup, and our spiritual makeup. Um, if you can melt and merge the two, then you definitely make a huge difference. You understanding, let's say, a meditative experience where you've got energies of a lower nature sort of trying to impede your progress or your attainment during this time. It can easily be seen as a transcendental situation where maybe a deity or an ascended master has now come through to you. You can mistake it for that. How do you feel what is intrusive and what is actually for your benefit? I think that's the question. And
Mhm.
if it feels intrusive, if it feels like this is overpowering you, then that is not a good situation. Your ascended masters and your deities are never going to overpower you. They don't want to take that feeling of security and safety away from you.
Okay, do you believe that practices like pranic healing and phytotherapy could be used to address the collective energy imbalance humanity is facing today? If so, how?
In a great To a great degree, yes, it can. Not just pranic healing. Practices like Tai Chi, Stellaria Pertu, traditional disciplines can all make a difference in that regard. Because whether those teachers acknowledge it or not, and I've seen this with karate teachers, they don't really understand what they are doing. I mean, they know what their teachers have taught them they are doing. Yes, they get that. They're very good at what they do. But they don't understand the impact of what they're doing on a spiritual level. They are doing so much more good than they realize they are doing.
Mm,
And I'm not saying all karate teachers, but a lot of them. And I would say basically a scenario of if you are practicing something that raises your energy flow, uplifts your spiritual nature, it definitely makes a difference because I come into contact with you. You're having a bad day, or vice versa for that matter, and my energy is high. You are
mm,
able to feel that, and you are able to go on that energy, and that's not a bad thing. You know,
mm,
people talk about energy vampires and blah blah blah. I don't believe in such a thing. I believe the energy belongs to divine, and all
mm.
his beings, all his or her children, have access to it. It's not your energy, it's not mine. It is divine.
Okay, let's get to the legacy of Chand Singh. So, Yuvraj, carrying forward the teachings of the doyenne, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, the doyenne or the doyenne, right?
The what?
Trying to catch this pronunciation. Carrying forward the teachings of the doyenne of palmistry, Chand Singh. How do you personally see the connection
Oh
between
yeah.
a person's palm lines and their life's purpose?
Okay, I think the word you were looking for was doyenne, and
Oh, sorry, doyenne.
that's
Okay,
fine. That's fine.
right.
So basically, it is very important, whether it is palmistry, which in scientific terms would be referred to as parapsychology, or whether it is astrology, which is an ancient Vedic science. Um, they all map out your life. The palm is often referred to as a mind map. And astrology, I refer to my astrology report as a map of your future. And when I say a map of your future, I'm not telling you what's going to happen. I'm telling you of all the opportunities and options that will come into your life and what would be the most beneficial plot for you to chart. And so basically, that is exactly what you said. It can be very beneficial. It can help you avoid a lot of pitfalls and avoid making a lot of mistakes and maximizing your high energy level periods so that you can actually have a really fulfilled and successful life.
Okay. Chanting emphasized both fate and free will. How do you interpret changes in palm lines over time? Can people truly rewrite their destiny through action and intention?
I definitely believe so. I've seen it happen more often than not. I could tell you something, but I have
Mm-hmm.
learned over the years that when I tell you that this is a likely scenario for you, but you're likely to also have these options, and you will have to choose where you go with. So free will definitely plays a huge role, and you can influence your life via free will. There were a lot of times in my own life when people assumed I was going to do a certain thing, and you know me well enough that I never do what everybody expects of me.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, it's a scenario where free will definitely plays a huge role, bro.
Oh, okay. What are some of the rarest or most spiritually significant palm markings you've encountered, and what did chanting teach you about their deeper meanings?
So, if I can highlight the one that is the most massive and has had
Mm-hmm.
the most massive impact on my life, even though I don't
Mm-hmm.
have it on my palm, I've seen such brilliant people have this mark. It's called a simian line. Um, a lot of Western astrologers, when they see the simian line on your palm, they tell you that you're going to have certain psychological issues, blah, blah, blah. Because it does happen in that way. It does
Mm-hmm.
appear on the palm of people who have certain difficulties, or I wouldn't like to use the word shortcomings, but certain challenges from a psychological perspective. And then, if you look at it, it also comes on the palm of certain people who are really, really brilliant and progressive. Now, the reason this line appears is it's a merging of your head and heart line. Neither your heart nor your head rules your personality. You have absolute balance in that.
In today's fast paced world, how can palmistry offer guidance in practical areas like career, relationships, or emotional balance?
So, If we look at it from a chiropsychology point of view, because chiropsychology tends to be more of character analysis, that sort of thing, it could definitely point out your shortcomings, your failings, and where you can improve. And if you look at it from a traditional Vedanta point of view, which is Jyotish basically, and if you look at it from a Jyotish point of view, you're basically looking at predictive stuff. So it will tell us at this point in time, you should have those opportunities available to you, that sort of thing. And you can approach it this way, this way, this way. And this is what I would recommend to you based on your personality, your strengths,
Mhm.
and the way your life looks at that point in time.
What did Chand Singh believe were the most misunderstood aspects of palmistry, and how do you work to clear those misconceptions today?
My dad was a very, very eloquent and accomplished individual. He was someone who always found that balance. He understood the spiritual nature of the sciences he practiced, so he never denied that or dismissed it. But he
Mhm.
also tried to bring a scientific aspect into it and try to make it more believable and accessible to the common man who thought of themselves as more progressive. And so with dad, I would say if he taught me anything about it, it was that you merge the two. You don't practice just chiropsychology because you lose out on so much if you do that. And you don't practice just Jyotish because science has made certain advancements. There's no doubt about that. There's certain things that we've learned in recent times with the correlation of those lines to character activity, to psychological makeup, to even health deficiencies, nutritional deficiencies, that sort of thing. So yeah, you don't dismiss that either. You kind of merge the two.
How often should one revisit a palm reading? Did Chand Singh believe our palms evolve as we grow spiritually or emotionally?
Well, he definitely believed that. I think any reader worth their salt knows that is true. Um, how often should you have a reading? I have clients that come to me maybe 2 or 3 times a week. I've also got clients that will visit me once a year or once every 2 years. So it's entirely dependent on the individual and what their needs and requirements are. Some people need more guidance because their lives change at a rate of knots. I mean, you
Hmm.
know, my life changes at a rate of knots. Um, so yeah, I don't go to other readers. I basically just do the analysis myself. But if I weren't who I am, I would probably be going to read on a regular basis. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get to the legacy of Pam Singh. As the only ordained Egyptian sand reader, Pam Singh passed on a rare legacy. What makes sand such a powerful medium for divination, and how were you trained to read its messages?
So the reason it is such a powerful tool, it is one of the only divination methods, or yeah, let's say methods, known in the world today that is similar to an oracle setup. So you're dealing directly with spirits. You're dealing directly with them using you as a conduit, giving you those messages. At times, it can go to the extent where a spirit could even possess the body of the individual concerned and actually just speak through them. And it happened to me once or twice. I know it happened to my mom once or twice. And yeah, that is the difference. But it's also, in my opinion, the most in depth form of divination known to man. Unfortunately, in our country, and this happened specifically with an incident regarding my mom, there was a show that was being held an esoteric fair. And when my mom was unable to attend, they put someone else there and claimed that she was able to do it. And upon looking into it, we found this to be absolute BS. This lady had never gone through the sort of process of training and that sort of thing. And she was never ordained as a sand reader. And so, yeah, it was unfortunate that they stooped to those levels. And the people that went to this individual were obviously ripped off and sad. Yeah. But essentially, the sand itself, to me, is the most accurate and in depth. Yeah.
Pam Singh's work was deeply influenced by ancient Egyptian spirituality. Are there particular deities, symbols, or rituals that she incorporated into her readings?
Mom was very, very spiritually inclined. When we talk of the deities of whether it be Babylonian Egyptian culture, whether it be Numerian, whether it be Hindu, the deities are pretty much the same. They are just called by different names and acknowledged in different forms in each of those cultures. Um, there's a common theory in this day and age, that of the Anunnaki, which is basically referring to those deities, but they believe them to be angels that came from outer space that basically guided us. I'm not sure I believe in that, but I believe it's the same thing. It's a different take on it. And so, with regards to that, the deities that I would say my mom was most influenced by, probably Isis, and I would say Osiris and Horus. Yeah.
Okay, compared to tarot or palmistry, what kind of insights does sand reading reveal that other modalities might not?
Oh, it would go as far as into past life regression, which not a lot of other readings do. That's the first difference. It would pick up on different lifetimes. A lot of the karmic stuff that we deal with in this lifetime, we aren't able to access unless we go through a past life regression. And this eliminates the need for that because it gives us the answers through the reading. And it also picks up in greater depth around issues other readings would just touch the surface.
Okay. Can you share a moment where a sand reading led to a profound breakthrough for someone, a moment you knew this was sacred work?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. Uh, a very well-known personality, uh, a guy that used to be on television quite regularly and that sort of thing, and he since childhood had had dreams of ancient Egypt and experiences the feeling of being there, more of a memory than a dream. That's how he described it to my mom. And when we went through the reading, he told her all of this after she picked up this. She said, "You were once a very powerful ruler of this land." And she went into it, she detailed it, and he says, I remember this. And he detailed going through the experiences that pharaoh of Egypt had actually gone through.
What spiritual ethics or protections did Pam Singh practice when working with such a powerful ancient medium, and how do you continue that tradition today?
Well, that's the thing. That's the need for that discipline to be taught and trained properly, and also the need for the ordinance, basically. Ordinance, yeah. So essentially, if you aren't trained to block out energies that can be harmful to you and your client, you're actually putting that person's soul at risk. And the energy is the plane, the realm that you are entering by using that sand is not the plane that we are currently sitting. And it's almost like astral travel. You could lose that person's soul in the middle of it if you don't know what you're doing.
Okay, my final question to you is for someone seeking clarity in today's chaotic world, how can Egyptian sand reading help realign their path? What did Pam Singh always want seekers to remember when coming for a reading?
Very simple. She gave them their strengths, their weaknesses, their ideal times, their optimal times, times when they should lay low. But she always maintained one thing. I told you this stuff. It is up to you to make the changes that are necessary. She always maintained that we can influence the outcome. We can influence the result. More often than not, when my mom made a prediction, it would come to pass. No matter how hard we try to avert certain things, they would generally work out that way. Um, so yeah, mom was one of those. She was also a priestess of certain pagan cultures and a Hindu priestess as well, a qualified pandita, that sort of thing. And mom did a lot of good in the world that I believe most readers don't. And I've learned from that. I try and use her as my model in the work that I do.
Okay, all I gotta say is thanks so much for your time, and as usual, look forward to catching up with you again in the future.
Thank you, brother. Much appreciated. You have an awesome day.
You too.
Take care, man. Ciao.
You too.